Hey everyone, it's Allie, and today I want to talk about the new class coming in Path of Exile 2's next major patch, patch 0.2, the Huntress. For the Huntress, we're going to get 2 of the 3 Ascendancies launching with this patch, both the Azmzon and the Ritualist, and there's quite a lot to say here, as these Ascendancies look pretty interesting. The Huntress overall is going to share the same starting location with the Ranger, so it's going to be a build that's going to be based around the bottom right of the tree. Obviously, you could potentially build as spellcaster if you wanted to, but that would require a little bit more effort, given you would have to branch out away from this portion of the tree over to where the spellcasting portion is, meaning you're most likely going to want to stick with attacks, and you're going to either be able to play it as melee or ranged, given that the Huntress is going to specifically be based around the spear, which can be both used as a melee and a ranged tool at the same time. Spear skills in general that are going to go along with Huntress all seem pretty interesting and pretty fun, where they have quite a lot of combo nature to them, where you either want to potentially use an ability that dashes you in and then do some other abilities that can combo with it, or to use a melee attack and then dash out and then do some sort of range attacks from there. They are trying to make it fairly combo heavy, although I don't really think that's going to end up panning out the way they think it's going to, given pretty much every single build in PoE 2 right now is just a 1 or 2 button build anyways. Maybe on paper it's going to work out, but unfortunately we have basically no tooltips for any of the spear skills, so all we can really go off of is their own word and the little bit of B-roll that we saw of it. In terms of the Ascendancies, are going to play with the spear skills, or realistically anything, as Huntress seems to be pretty much a jack of all trades. Think of it kind of like a gemling, where you can kind of play whatever you want with it. You're going to basically be able to accomplish the same thing with the Huntress for the most part, and I honestly feel like that's a pretty good place, given that the more general an Ascendancy is, the wider its application can be. So, with that said, why don't we start by first discussing the Azmzon. This is personally, out of the 2 Ascendancies for Huntress, the one I'm most excited about, as well. Almost every single node that we have here is just really good, immediately has a good application, and I think is going to be something that people are going to be interested in. If you want to start with the defensive/utility package of it, honestly, it has a pretty good set of things to look for. First off, we have Mystic Harvest, which is just a really good node. It's the first instance of elemental life leech that we have in the game. At first, when I saw this, I kind of freaked out because to me, I internally thought this was also going to be mana leech, and that would have been insane, as it would fix the mana issues of any build you want to play on this pretty much instantaneously. But with it only being life leech, it's still really good, and it's a great recovery layer, especially in the early game. But in the late game, you're probably not going to really care too much about this, as leech in general is unfortunately just a little bit weak right now. Maybe we'll get a big leech buff with 0.2, we'll have to see, but overall, Mystic Harvest is just pretty good. We also have Azmzon Brew, which I'm personally not too big of a fan of. I just don't really see where this becomes very impactful, given you're most likely going to have your mana problems fixed anyways through some other means, such as mana leech. So realistically, I just don't really see that being very applicable. But I guess being able to effectively get 2 life flasks is going to be kind of nice. Although, if you have something like Mystic Harvest, then having 2 life flasks also kind of becomes a little bit irrelevant. I really don't see exactly where this would be applicable and immediately be insane, but it's a cute node nevertheless, and having 2 life flasks or 2 mana flasks effectively can probably be pretty good in some early game builds. We also have Stalking Panther, which I am extremely excited about because this node is just going to be really fun to build around. Azmzon with this node basically screams, play me as a Queen of the Forest build. Queen of the Forest is simply just a chest plate that makes it so you don't gain movement speed from any source, but instead gain movement speed based on your evasion rating. This was a pretty popular build archetype on Deadeye builds and Pathfinder builds all throughout the beginning of EA launch. And honestly, if they don't nerf Queen of the Forest, I can see basically every Azmzon build just playing around this and having a lot of fun with it. The whole goal in a typical Queen of the Forest build was just wear a rare helmet, pair of gloves, and boots with literally as much evasion as them as possible to get your movement speed from Queen of the Forest to be as high as you can. Given the chestplate itself doesn't really have that much evasion to begin with, the half body armor reduction doesn't really matter too much, and even in the early game, if you don't want to play around that and you don't want to go Queen of the Forest or it's too expensive, this also kind of just incentivizes you to immediately go hybrid, where a lot of ranger builds were playing both evasion and ES with things such as Ghost Dance, and it felt really good. And well, you're even more incentivized to do so on this, which is honestly kind of cool, but I like that there's a dual purpose to it. In terms of the main attractions here, we're going to have 3 different lines that we're going to be able to take in the Azmzon that all do something different, and honestly, all of them are pretty cool combat changes. First at the top, we have Elemental Infusion, which gives you the Infuse Weapon skill. This is going to be a attack on its own that has a stupidly high attack damage base, and it's going to convert all of your damage over to a specific elemental type if you have infusions when you attack with it. These infusions are going to be given to you from the Ascendancy point itself, but the thing about this is you have to consume a charge to actually give yourself the infusion stacks to then use Infused Weapon. At least that's how I'm interpreting all this. I don't really see how the Infused Weapon itself is going to be able to consume them to give you infusions, meaning you would have to use this as a two-part skill where you attack with something else first that consumes charges, and then you get to follow up with an Infused Weapon. This kind of makes me not as interested in it. At first, I was really interested in this, and my plan was to make an Infused Weapon build as my build for the season, but well, given we have to play some sort of 2 combo skill, I'm not as interested anymore. With that said, Huntress and all the spear skills are going to be pretty charge based, at least that's what GG said. So who knows, maybe something cute comes up here where this actually fits in very well and it feels really fun to play. The middle path is also going to be, in my opinion, I think a pretty downright broken section of Azmzon, and I think it's going to have quite a lot of application in, well, almost every build. Predatory Instinct is going to change the health bar of every rare and unique that you fight, where some portions of it are going to be lighter in color than others, and during those sections of a monster's health bar, you are going to have open weakness applied onto it, which gives you various buffs. With the first node, Predatory Instinct itself, you're going to get 50% more damage during those specific phases of the fight, and based from all the B-roll they showed us, it looks like about half of the total bar is filled with weaknesses, meaning this effectively comes out to maybe some around 25% more damage all times. With the node after it, in for the kill, giving you 20% movement speed while an enemy has the weakness up, which seems kind of pointless given you're probably going to blow through it really quickly, given you get 50% more damage during that section of it. But in for the kill is going to be pretty good with 40% generic attack and cast speed, honestly feeling pretty good, meaning that during that section, you get to burst the enemy even harder. I think this probably is going to feel pretty good with bleed or poison-based builds because, well, with you doing 50% more damage, you get to apply a 50% bigger dot, which then lasts the full duration, so you kind of get to keep that open weakness damage going through more than just the phase itself. I definitely think you'll see at least bleed builds definitely take this, given that, well, bleed seems to be a pretty big portion of spear skills. For the final section of this, which is what I'm personally most excited for, we have Critical Strike and Penetrate. Critical Strike is going to allow you to go over 100% attack rating, and you're going to then get 25% of your excess as extra crit chance. With a little bit of path of building that I've been doing over the past day or so trying to put this together, I've been able to get to somewhere around 40,000 accuracy or so with a pretty heavy investment in accuracy stacking, which when doing the math on it, assuming you need 1.7k accuracy or so to be able to hit cap against a level 84 enemy, gives you somewhere around 600% crit chance or so. This, for the most part, just immediately puts you at like 70% crit chance with a crit roll on your weapon in pretty much every build. So by itself, Critical Strike is just a stupid amount of free crit chance, allowing you to crit cap pretty easily. Penetrate is also going to be really fun, given that this by itself is going to make leveling with an Azmzon easy. With you gaining 25% of the accuracy rating stat on your weapon as extra added fizz damage, all you have to do in the early game is grab yourself literally any two-hander, shove in 2 accuracy runes, and suddenly, given that this gives you the same amount of min and max, you have yourself a pretty overpowered fizz weapon while leveling, and then in the late game, this allows you to make a really, really high PDPS weapon really easily, given that we're also getting new runes this season that are going to be of higher tiers, meaning that we might even get to see something like a 200 or 300 accuracy rune overall. I think Penetrate is just insane, and given that pretty much every elemental skill has physical to elemental conversion basically baked into it in PoE 2, well, that added fizz is very relevant for pretty much any build you'd want to play on this. Overall, Azmzon looks good. All the damage notes look amazing. Its defensive package looks pretty good too. And I think you're going to have some pretty cute builds that you're going to be able to play on this. Given it's pretty much a jack of all trades, they can play any sort of build archetype that you want to on. Now, for the other Ascendancy that they showcased, the Ritualist, I'm personally not very excited for it. I think it's very cute in practice, but realistically, it's pretty gimmicky as there's only one real node that you care about on this whole tree, and everything else just seems kind of blood mage-ish, where it's just all jumbled together and doesn't really make that much sense. So the key takeaway from Ritualist is literally just unfurled finger. You just get an extra ring slot. That's it. That's pretty cool on its own. That's kind of broken on its own. And the implications of this are pretty extreme. First off, what happens with Calandra's Touch? Does it mirror both of them? Does it mirror just one, like normal? Does the third ring slot get completely ignored? Can I equip 2 Calandra's Touches then? And does that give me 3 copies of my ring? Does this work with Ingenuity? Does this mean that Ingenuity got nerfed? You know, a lot of implications can come from this. And well, given ring slots are by far the most broken slot in the game right now, we can see this being pretty popular and, well, this node on its own being the whole reason some people are going to play Ritualist. For attribute stackers, this is insane, although attribute stacking is getting kind of nerfed this season, so we'll see if that's really viable. But if you want to play something like a mana stacker, this also might be a pretty good reason to just play a Ritualist in general. The node behind it, Mystic Attunement, is also really powerful, giving you a mini Ingenuity that also works on your amulets, which is really cute, giving you 25% extra bonus. But unfortunately, the rest of the Ascendancy just kind of sucks. The only real cute thing to mention here is both As Whispers Ask and As Whispers Demand, with Ritual Sacrifice allowing you to feed off of a corpse, which is like a 3-second long cast. It looked awful from the B-roll that they showed of it. And then you get the monsters modifiers as buffs on you for a while, effectively just giving you a headhunter. This really seems kind of bad, given headhunter is currently a fixed div item. People don't really care about the headhunter buffs that much, and well, having to sit there for however long to channel the feed just seems really impractical. And then for As Whispers Demand, same thing. You get one random modifier, and oh, that's really not going to be that good. The only other saving grace here, realistically, is going to be Blood Boil. This node and this skill in general just seem really good. You apply a Blood Pustule every 2 seconds around nearby enemies, which can be reduced down to about 0.9 seconds or so with the reduced duration support. And when you kill that enemy, they explode for Corrupting Blood. And, well, if you just simply put one stack of this on a pack, they all explode, they all apply Corrupting Blood on each other, and, well, they kind of basically die instantly. This should be pretty good for clear, and it's a pretty good third node to pick up along the +1 ring that you get. The only other key thing here to mention would be Mind Phylacteries, which allows you to trigger your charms by just using your mana if you don't have enough charges. And this could potentially make for some really memey setups, especially given we're getting unique charms this season. And there might be some really key things they could do with that, but honestly, we'll have to see. And otherwise, the rest of Ritualist just looks really underwhelming. +1 ring slot by itself is already really good, so that kind of makes this a pretty decent Ascendancy as it is, but, well, there really isn't much else to say here. Overall, I think Azmzon is at least an absolute winner. I think it's going to be a staple for a very long time, and I think a lot of people are going to try it out, and a lot of builds are going to be based off of it, given you can pretty much play whatever you want with it. You can play Bleed, you can play Raw Fizz, you can play Elemental, and all of it is going to do really well. Given it has a built-in accuracy stacker vibe to it, which allows you to basically infinitely scale, yeah, I think it's going to be a solid Ascendancy overall. I'm pretty excited for it. I'm personally not exactly sure what I want to play, either between Azmzon or potentially looking at the Lich, as the Lich has some pretty interesting things we can do with it. But honestly, the more I think about it, I'm probably going to end up sticking with Azmzon just because it's a little bit safer. And I think, well, just really simple to level through the early game and will make a pretty strong character out of it. If you'd like to discuss any further or have anything you want to say about the Ascendancies yourself, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to discuss any of this further with you at any point. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so feel free to come by Twitch and ask me any questions there as well. Or if you simply just want to come hang out with all the other cuties and be a part of our community, I'd be more than happy to see you there as well. With all that said, I hope you cuties enjoy this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.